New this morning, a car smashing through a yard, a picket fence, and a block fence. What a mess left behind here for this homeowner. This is in Phoenix. It was late last night near 16th Street and Thomas. Phoenix police sharing an update just moments ago. They shared that the driver was rushed to the hospital, is expected to be okay, but is hurt. Officers also shared that no one in the home was hurt. Investigators are now trying to figure out what led up to the crash. We are also continuing to follow the latest deadly plane crash in the U.S. here, and once again it is here in Arizona.
Yeah, and unfortunately this incident is the second deadly plane crash in just over a week here in our state. This one happening midair near the Marana airport, which is northwest of Tucson. The NTSB believes the Lancer and a Cessna 172 collided while the Cessna was attempting to land there in Marana. The people on board the Cessna survived, but the two people on board the Lancer died when it burst into flames and crashed there at the runway. Pilot and aviation expert Reed Yarden says that the Cessna 172 is primarily used for training pilots, unlike the Lancer.
Cruise at over 200 miles an hour, so there's an example of just the speed differences. The landing speed on the Lancer is much greater than the 172.
So he says that Marana Airport is an uncontrolled field, meaning it does not have an air traffic control tower, so pilots communicate their position with each other. This is not an uncommon practice, and many small airports around the country have the very same type of thing. So
the crash is the latest of several recent incidents in late January. Mid-air collision over the Potomac River, a passenger plane and an Army Black Hawk helicopter, if you recall, collided, killing 67 people on board. Days later, two smaller planes went down in Alaska, another in Philly. Last week, a private jet owned by Motley Crue singer Vince Neil crashed in Scottsdale at the airport there, killing the pilot. And Monday, a Delta plane with 80 people on board ended up on its roof, flipped over there after a crash landing in Toronto. Experts continue to stress, though, flying is the safest mode of transportation. In fact, NTSB data dating back more than 40 years shows last month was the safest January on record for air travel.
An AP poll shows a majority of Americans still feel safe traveling in the skies. The poll taken just after last month's deadly crash in Washington, D.C. shows 64% of Americans consider flying to be very safe or somewhat safe. However, that number has decreased by 7% from last year. We spoke with some passengers at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. Many said they were still comfortable flying, pointing to a long track record of safety.
I think there's some really good people in charge that are taking care of things, and yeah, it's fine.
I think we're all travelers here on this planet, and we never know when our last day is, so enjoy every day, because you just never know.
You might as well just do what you want to do. Take that flight.
So we also spoke with the owner of a flight school that operates out of Falcon Field in Mesa, rather. He says none of the recent crashes appear to have any major consistencies, and he feels there isn't any underlying issue with the aviation industry. He also tells us there's no reason to have a heightened fear of flying.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, right? So many of them have happened in a short amount of time. We do have some new developments here in that deadly plane crash over the Potomac River last month. The family of a victim who died is now suing the FAA and U.S. Army. The suit is now seeking $250 million over alleged wrongdoing that led to the death of 40-year-old Casey Crafton. He was one of 67 people killed on January 29th when an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk helicopter both collided. Their attorney, the family attorney, says the family deserves answers as to what happened to their loved one.
Time now 7:06, taking a look at some other headlines on this Thursday morning and developing at the state capitol. A Republican-backed bill that would ask Arizona voters to allow the use of firing squads to execute death row inmates advances.
House Concurrent Resolution 2024 would require firing squads to carry out executions instead of lethal injection. The measure is a response to a retired federal judge's review of lethal injection procedures, which found the process is flawed and the drugs very difficult to obtain, and they are costly. If the bill is passed by the legislature, it would go before voters in the 2026 general election.
Also moving through the legislature, a bill requiring senior living facilities to allow residents to place cameras in their rooms. It passed 11-1 in committee. A similar measure died in the House in 2024. AARP calls this bill a sweeping win. It would prevent facilities from making rules against someone placing a camera in their own room. Many senior living facilities already have rules in place allowing this.
We take you up to the high country. Arizona lawmaker pushing a bill that would change the state constitution and remove some privileges awarded to our elected leaders. Prescott area Representative Republican Quan Nguyen backing a bill passed in the Judiciary Committee. It would end legislative immunity for traffic violations. Last month, there were 2 cases of lawmakers getting out of traffic violations due to that privilege. But Nguyen says this isn't about those cases in particular.
I think it's common sense. I think we need to represent the people and live under the same laws.
If passed by the full legislature, the bill would go to the ballot in 2026 for voters to decide.